Today's debate was brought to you by Ironing. I'm Ethan Blake, and these lawmakers couldn't agree on gravity, let alone the bill in question.
Boebert from Colorado for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator Regan, is it true that the EPA has never obtained formal authorization legislation from Congress?
I'm sorry?
Is it true that the EPA has never obtained formal legislation, authorization legislation from Congress? It's never been authorized by Congress.
EPA is not authorized by Congress?
I'm asking you.
I thought EPA was authorized by Congress.
Well, the EPA is not. The EPA has never been formally authorized by Congress. However, this agency has imposed over $1.3 trillion in regulatory costs since the Biden regime took office. We authorize committees here in Congress to ensure that we have proper oversight and accountability in the functioning of the executive branch. And this process is extremely vital because often we see agencies abuse the separation of powers, creating rules and laws, regulations without consent of Congress. And we appropriate funds to agencies like the EPA and expect these tax dollars and this tax dollar funding to be used in accordance with the legislative priorities and comply with the oversight requirements. So, Mr. Regan, last month, the Supreme Court rightly overturned the Chevron doctrine, which the EPA relied on to support its very controversial and costly rulemakings. Since your agency has never been authorized by Congress and has since lost most legal standing, does your agency still plan to enable rogue bureaucrats to enact unconstitutional regulations?
I'm not quite sure I follow you. You're saying that...
I'm saying the Chevron doctrine was overturned by the Supreme Court.
We have no authority.
I'm saying you've never been authorized. Wait, hold on.
Congress doesn't delegate authority for us to do the regulations and the business and the policy. So since 1970.
So the Chevron doctrine, where you have created all of these rules under that have been proven to be unconstitutional by the Supreme Court, has been overruled. So now I'm asking, are your bureaucrats still going to implement these rulemaking processes?
You do know Chevron is not just focused on EPA. So,
but you are. So I'm asking about the EPA, and I'm asking about your rogue bureaucrats that have enacted these unconstitutional regulations. Are you going to repeal them? Are you going to continue to implement them, or are you going to stop altogether since it's been overturned?
Do you understand the ruling?
Do you understand the ruling of the Supreme Court?
I do. And so your question is ill-formed. No.
Will you be repealing?
We're not going to stop.
You're going to unconstitutionally continue with these rulemakings.
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to
do
our...
So which rulemakings are you going to roll back?
We're going to adhere to the Supreme Court and continue to do our work in accordance to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court.
So which ones are you going to repeal?
The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything.
They have been deemed unconstitutional.
No.
Absolutely, they have. This was a huge victory. And, even in our appropriations bill in the House this year, the funding has been reduced by 20%. I would argue that it needs to be reduced by 100%. But in this, it's because of these radical Green New Deal policies that jeopardize domestic energy development and overload America's power grid and raise costs on American consumers and businesses. So with the EPA and these overreaching regulations, do you have any intent on working with the House majority to lower energy costs and produce more reliable and affordable energy?
If you look at our rule, we are producing reliable, affordable, diverse.
I think Americans' wallets would disagree with that. I mean, the Biden administration, if they continue under Obama's administrative policies, this regulatory pace for a full 8 years, the cumulative costs of this administration's rulemakings would exceed $60,000 per household. And as you know, the Biden administration reversed President Trump's successful deregulation by executive order. So the Biden regime is on pace of increasing regulatory costs at a rate of $617 billion per year in just rulemaking that we are seeing is unconstitutional.
It's just shocking. You spend so much time with our regional staff and regional administration and region aid and have such productive conversations about how we're doing things for your district and your state. And then you take this microphone and you
I've also seen the coal plants that have been decommissioned in my state.
But 100% we should not
I've
exist.
seen the energy regulations that have regulated my district into poverty.
You're spending time with my staff
sure.
in your district.
Of course I am. I have oversight over your staff, and I want them to answer. I want them to provide a service for the American people.
Complimenting them
but there
about
are
the
so much.
partnerships.
Yes, there are some things that have been done well, but
But we
not
should be
everything.
100%
When we
removed?
have $617 billion per year in rulemaking, that is absolutely absurd. When you are taking our affordable clean energy and regulating it out of existence and killing these good-paying jobs in my district, yes, I have a problem with that.
Sure. Yeah.
My time has expired, and I yield.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I think that was 46 seconds over, so we'll take that.
Mr. Raskin, if we're going to start timing people over, then you're going to have to start editing your comments on your opening statements and everything else. But I will do that.
Thank you, kindly.
All right. Chair recognizes.
Lock the doors and turn up the volume, because you are about to witness a patriot dismantle a deep state tyrant, live and in real time. This is not a hearing. This is an intervention. This is Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, a fearless warrior from Colorado, holding the feet of Biden's chief climate zealot, EPA Administrator Michael Regan, to the fire of constitutional truth. What you are about to see is the raw, unfiltered collision between we the people and the unaccountable, unelected bureaucracy that is strangling this country. Get ready for a masterclass in holding power accountable. From the very first second, Boebert lands a devastating body blow. Is it true, she asks with surgical precision, that the EPA has never obtained formal authorization legislation from Congress? Watch Reagan squirm. He deflects. He obfuscates. I thought EPA was authorized by Congress. He thought, this is the head of the entire agency, and he doesn't know its fundamental legal status? The contempt is dripping from his pores. Boebert doesn't let him off the hook. She states the fact. The EPA has never been formally authorized by Congress. My God, let that sink in. This Leviathan, this behemoth that has imposed over $1.3 trillion in costs under the Biden regime alone, is a constitutionally dubious entity from its very inception. My blood pressure is already rising. This isn't just mismanagement. This is a crisis of legitimacy. Then she brings the hammer down. She brings up the Supreme Court's righteous decision to overturn the Chevron doctrine, the legal poison that allowed rogue agencies like the EPA to invent law out of thin air for decades. Her question is a silver bullet aimed at the heart of the administrative state. Since your agency has never been authorized by Congress and has since lost most legal standing, does your agency still plan to enable rogue bureaucrats to enact unconstitutional regulations? His response is a pathetic symphony of confusion and arrogance. I'm not quite sure I follow you. He doesn't follow, or he refuses to. He plays dumb, but Lauren Boebert is anything but. She rephrases, she simplifies, she breaks it down for him as if he's a toddler. The Chevron doctrine is gone. Your power to make up rules has been struck down. Are you going to repeal them? She demands. And then comes the moment that should send a chill down the spine of every American. Reagan smirks. Your question is ill-formed. The sheer, unmitigated gall. He insults her intelligence and then delivers the tyrannical verdict, we're not going to stop. I had to rewind it. Did he just admit, on camera, under oath, that he intends to defy the Supreme Court of the United States? Yes, he did. The Supreme Court didn't tell us to repeal anything, he sneers. This is the definition of a rogue bureaucrat. This is the deep state declaring its independence from our Constitution, from our courts, and from the will of the people. This is tyranny, plain and simple. Boebert, channeling the fury of every hardworking American, rightly points out that this is why we must defund his entire agency. I would argue that it needs to be reduced by 100%, she declares. Amen. You don't negotiate with tyrants, you defund them. You starve the beast. She connects his agency's radical Green New Deal agenda directly to the pain in every American's wallet, the crushing energy costs, the threat to our power grid, all in service of a climate cult. And then Reagan tries to turn it personal. He gets slick. It's just shocking you spend so much time with our regional staff, and then you take this microphone. It's a classic gaslighting technique. He's trying to frame her righteous oversight as a betrayal, as some kind of hypocrisy. But Boebert is a bulldog. She doesn't back down an inch. I have seen the plants that have been decommissioned in my state, she fires back. I have seen energy regulations that have regulated my district into poverty. The passion in her voice is the passion of a representative who actually fights for her people. Of course I am spending time with your staff. I have oversight over your staff, she thunders. When you are taking our affordable clean energy and regulating it out of existence and killing these good-paying jobs in my district, yes, I have a problem with that. This, patriots, is the fight of our lifetime. It's Lauren Boebert versus the swamp. It's the Constitution versus the unelected bureaucrat. It's American prosperity versus the globalist green agenda. This isn't just a committee hearing. It's a snapshot of the war for the future of our republic. Thank God for warriors like Lauren Boebert who have the courage to stand in the breach and speak truth to illegitimate power. This is what it looks like to put America first.